Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the NatureCity podcast. I'm your host, Pradelli, and I'm also the CEO and co-founder of the company, having started NatureCity over 20 years ago with my wife, Beth, and since then, it's been our honor to have served over 500,000 Americans by offering them the best supplements we can make. Today, we're going to be talking about the difference between vitamin K1 and vitamin K2. They do very different things in the body. Now, when we started NatureCity about 23 years ago, hardly anyone made the distinction between vitamin K1 and vitamin K2. It was just vitamin K, the vitamin that helps with blood coagulation or blood clotting, so our blood doesn't get too thin and we bleed to death when a blood vessel is injured or we cut ourselves. Since then, the knowledge about and the research with vitamin K2 has simply exploded. And as it turns out, vitamin K2 is a very significant part of healthy aging for reasons we're going to discuss today. Now, vitamin K1 is pretty easy to get from diet if you're eating leafy greens like spinach, kale, broccoli, arugula, or many other types of lettuce. Dried spices like basil, sage, parsley, oregano, they also have high amounts of vitamin K1, but practically since we use these spices in relatively small amounts, you still need the leafy greens to meet your vitamin K1 needs. On the other hand, getting enough vitamin K2 each day from diet alone is very challenging. The foods with the most vitamin K2 are fermented vegetables like natto, a fermented soybean dish, and beef liver or goose liver, not things we commonly eat in the United States. Fermented cheeses are a good source of vitamin K2, but you'd have to eat a lot of cheese each day to get the amount of vitamin K2 that research is finding is valuable to our health. Unfortunately, eating that much cheese daily probably isn't a good idea for our overall health. This makes vitamin K2 an important nutrient to supplement. Now, before we get into what you should look for in a vitamin K2 supplement, let's review what makes vitamin K2 so important to our bodies. As I mentioned, the main function of vitamin K1 is helping with blood clotting. Now, vitamin K2 plays a small part here also, but more importantly, vitamin K2 has been recently recognized for its essential role in helping keep bones strong and also helping to protect against calcium buildup in arteries and blood vessels, which are both very important to healthy aging. When it comes to bone health, vitamin K2 helps activate a protein called osteocalcin that vitamin D helps your body produce. Osteocalcin is important because it works to bind calcium to bones, which results in stronger bones. It's not just good enough for your body to produce this osteocalcin protein. You need the vitamin K2 to turn on the bone building switch and spurt into action. Without adequate vitamin K2, it will be more challenging for you to maintain strong bones as you age. And if that alone isn't enough for you to supplement vitamin K2, consider this. Vitamin K2 activates a second protein, this one called matrix GLA protein, which vitamin D also helps your body produce. When it's activated, matrix GLA protein essentially repels calcium as it attempts to deposit in arteries, blood vessels, and other tissues. Now, as you may know, when calcium accumulates in these places, it's bad for our health, particularly cardiovascular health. Instead, with the help of vitamin K2, excess calcium gets redirected to places where it can be useful, like bones. Supporting bone and cardiovascular health are the two best known reasons why we need to ensure our bodies have adequate vitamin K2. But as I mentioned, these discoveries are fairly recent. Much more research is being done to see where else in the body vitamin K2 plays a role, and the early data suggests that vitamin K2 may help support immune system function and brain health too. Now, since vitamin K2 is so hard to get from diet alone, it makes a lot of sense to take a vitamin K2 supplement. There is one caution for those taking blood-thinning medications. Before you take any vitamin K supplement, you need to consult with your physician. As you may know, many of these drugs work by interfering with the blood clotting action of vitamin K, so you have to be careful about vitamin K intake, and this includes vitamin K2. Now, there are some newer medications available that apparently work differently, so it's worth a conversation with your doctor to see what's best for you. Now, when it comes to vitamin K2 supplements, we prefer the MK7 form over the other most common form, which is MK4. To clarify what we mean by MK7, if you look at the chemistry of a vitamin K molecule, the only structural difference between vitamin K1 And vitamin K2 is a side chain of units called menaquinones, and quinones being the M in MK7 or MK4. Now, MK7 is a longer chain, has more of these menaquinones than MK4, and MK7 is not only better absorbed than MK4, it has a much longer half-life, which means it stays in the blood serum for a much longer time. And related to this, research indicates that vitamin K2 as MK7 is the more efficient way to support bone and heart health, which is why we use it in our supplements. Our favorite vitamin K2 ingredient is the MenaQ7 brand. It has far and away the most research support, and the version we use is naturally derived from chickpeas. At a minimum, we recommend supplementing with 90 micrograms of vitamin K2 per day. If you want to match the MenaQ7 studies for bone and cardiovascular health, you should take 180 micrograms daily. We have MenaQ7 vitamin K2 in 3 products. It's in our 2 bone health supplements, True Osteo Plus and the standard True Osteo formula. And if you're taking a calcium supplement, we strongly recommend taking vitamin K2 also to help ensure the calcium ends up where you want it, which is in bones and not your arteries. We also combine MenaQ7 vitamin K2 with its partner vitamin D in our True K2 D3 formula. The vitamin D3 comes from algae, not sheep's wool, so it's a vegan-friendly formula if that's important to you. You can find these products at NatureCity.com. Check them out and get started today because vitamin K2 is an important nutrient at any age, but especially as we get older. That's it for this week. Hopefully you found this helpful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to see future episodes, or you can listen to us on your favorite streaming service or on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. This is Carl Pradelli, and I will see you next week.